Speaking of my brief life so far, it can only be described as bleak. Before the academic track selection in high school, I was practically born for the humanities, but for the sake of my childhood sweetheart, and because my parents said there was no future in liberal arts, they changed my preference. Before the tracking decision, I ended up choosing the sciences. But 10 years of waiting couldn't buy a single sincere heart. On my 27th birthday, he got married while I was on a business trip. I got into a car accident and died without a whole body. The moment I closed my eyes, my entire life flashed before me like a fleeting dream. Finally, lingering on Dean Lin's face full of disgust. Dean Lin, if I had another chance, I wouldn't choose you again. I groggy opened my eyes. Suddenly I saw the homeroom teacher's shiny bald head outside the door. Holy, I was startled. Since when does the underworld have homeroom teachers? Is the 9-year compulsory education system popular in the underworld now? Before I could react, I saw the homeroom teacher walk in through the back door. He tapped my desk with 2 fingers. Tessu, come to my office. So real? Is this for real? Didn't I die? Am I alive again? I turned my head and saw the homeroom teacher's smiling face. Did I actually get reborn? What now? It's over. These 2 words are all I can think about. Getting caught. Sleeping during evening self-study means another round of loving education is inevitable. I followed the homeroom teacher out the door with my head hanging low. On the way, we ran into a few teachers who all looked at me with strange expressions. I couldn't help but mutter to myself, what now? Did I do something wrong? That can't be right. I remember being a good student in high school. Tessa, I know you did well on this exam, but you can't slack off. Falling asleep during evening self-study. You would never have done something like this before. Have you been too tired from studying lately? I stared blankly at the sparse hair on my homeroom teacher's head. Good grades. Me. How many years has it been since I last heard that phrase? The last time someone praised my academic performance was back in my first year of high school. I suddenly snapped back to reality. So, this is the evening self-study session. After the first monthly exam of freshman year, Tesso, our homeroom teacher, Dongji, called my name again. I quickly pretended to listen obediently and admitted my mistake like a good student. I'm sorry, teacher. It won't happen again. I was just really tired today. I promise there won't be a next time. With my good girl appearance and my usual behavior, the teacher didn't give me too hard a time and quickly moved on from the topic. By the way, did you fill out the science track on the subject selection form last time? I suddenly remembered that after the first monthly exam, the teacher had handed out subject selection forms for arts and sciences. Following my parents' advice, I had chosen the science track. But deep down, I wasn't convinced. After all, my art subjects were ranked first in the grade with nearly perfect scores in every subject. But at that time, I still lacked the courage to resist. Tessu, I've discussed your grades with your other teachers. Your performance in science subjects, especially math and physics, is below passing. If you're serious about pursuing science, you'll need to put in more effort. Teacher, can I choose liberal arts instead? I suddenly said to Brother Dong. Brother Dong was taken aback by my words. Why? The sudden change of heart towards liberal arts? I've thought it over and considered my grades, and I realize I still prefer the humanities. Plus, I have a stronger advantage in those subjects, I said vaguely. All right. All right. Think it through carefully. Choosing the humanities might narrow your job opportunities in the future. But if you excel in it, then it shouldn't be a problem. Just think it over properly. Don't keep changing your mind. The teacher replied, Okay, teacher. With my head down, I slowly walked back to the classroom. In my previous life, even before the subject division, my physics was still very poor. My homeroom teacher advised me to choose the liberal arts track to avoid dragging my grades down. I initially opted for liberal arts, but on a whim, I followed my parents' advice and also to pursue Dean Lin. I chose the science track. In the end, physics kept holding me back, and my other grades weren't strong enough either. Eventually, I became just another average student, struggling to survive in the tough job market. Returning to my seat, I stared at the results of the first monthly exam and fell into deep thought. Chinese 137, Math 101, English 145, Politics 96, History 90, Geography 88, Physics 30, Chemistry 73, Biology 71. I vaguely remember after the exam because of my abysmal physics score, my physics teacher even took me for a walk around the campus. The general message was to encourage me not to lose heart, saying, It's normal for the first exam and that I'll gradually improve over time. Unfortunately, I might truly lack that talent. No matter how many practice questions I do when it comes to the actual exam, what I don't know still remains unknown. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but sigh. A voice came to my ear. Sighing after doing so well on the test, I was startled and turned to see my desk mate, Yang Yu. No, you scared me to death. She rolled her eyes. What? Did the homeroom teacher want with you? Again? What else? Got caught sleeping. Of course, oh, Tilda. The last evening's self-study session passed by in a playful and noisy manner, and in the blink of an eye, it was already the next day. Early in the morning, I was drowsily reciting my textbook, barely making it through the 50-minute marathon morning reading session. And just as I was about to take a nap, someone came, looking for trouble. Sis, you must be Dean's childhood friend, right? I'm Dean's girlfriend. My name is Blair. Shoo, the girl in front of me said in a sweet, caddish voice. I looked the girl up and down. Probably also a freshman in high school, with long flowing hair and quite pretty, though her foundation was a bit too pale and her lipstick a bit too red. The makeup was obvious, and I had no idea how she'd slipped past the teacher's inspections. I forced what I thought was a gentle smile. Classmate, did you need something from me? I heard you grew up with Dean, so I came to meet you and learn more about the people around him. After all, I'm Dean's girlfriend now, Blair Shue said with an affected shyness. I was speechless. Seriously, could she be any more obvious about flaunting her relationship? Thanks a lot for coming all this way just to tell me. Classmate, let me clarify. Dean Lin and I aren't actually that close. At best, we've been neighbors for over a decade, but childhood sweethearts is pushing it. Also, you don't need to tell me about your relationship with him. That's between the two of you. I explained. Are you angry, sis? I didn't mean to bother you. I'm not sure which part of what I said struck a nerve, but the girl's eyes welled up with tears on the verge of crying. Just then Dean Lin showed up, and the first thing out of his mouth made me want to punch him. Tessu, will you ever stop? Are you bullying Blair again? He was furious, as if I'd done something truly unforgivable. If I were still 16, I might have swallowed my pride and taken this unfairness in silence. But now I'm 27. Dean Lin, what do you mean by again? How many times have I bullied her? Don't say I haven't bullied her. Even if I really did, she came to me first. I'm really done with you.
How can
anyone still treasure you like this? Your little girlfriend went out of her way to tell me you two are dating. What's the point of that? Is it to assert her dominance or to provoke me? Does she really think there's something between us? Dean Lin's face grew increasingly grim, but I felt an unprecedented sense of satisfaction. In my previous life, it was because I had been too timid for too long that they thought I was an easy target. I ignored Dean Lin's dark, gloomy face and turned to look at Blair Shue. And as for you, Blair Shue, maybe tone down the makeup a
bit?
After all, if the dean sees you, I wonder if your natural face can live up to the title of class beauty. With that, the class bell rang, and I turned to head back to the classroom. The first class is English. The English teacher likes to randomly call on students for oral presentations before class.
In my
past life, being introverted even though my English grades were good, I rarely participated in such activities. So the English teacher didn't usually
pressure me.
As usual, the question was asked, does anyone want to volunteer for today's sharing? I glanced around and saw all my classmates silently lower their heads. At this moment, a hoardy voice rang out. Teacher, classmate Tesso. Sue signed up with me after class, saying she wanted to do this presentation.
I
frowned and turned to look.
It was the
English class representative, Zhang Xu.
Yao.
We had never gotten along, not only because my English grades consistently surpassed hers, but also because she always believed I had stolen her spot in the English competition. Tessu, please. Come on, the English teacher said to me with a smile. I had no choice but to stand up and say, hello everyone. Today, I'd like to share with you a novel I've recently read. Thanks to the English speaking skills I honed through my struggles in my previous life's work, I managed to show off a little. Okay, very good, the English teacher said with obvious delight on her face. I calmly sat back down and turned to see the admiring gaze of my deskmate. I couldn't help but chuckle. Girls are truly the most adorable, while men are all just fleeting clouds. Of course, with the exception of some green tea, I quietly pulled a preserved plum candy from my pocket and slipped it into my deskmate's hand. Her eyes sparkled and the smile at the corners of her lips was impossible to hide. I glanced over at Zhang Xu Yao and caught the venomous look in her eyes before she could hide it. Seriously, it's like I stole her boyfriend or something. I rolled my eyes and stopped paying attention. When class ended, the English teacher signaled for me to come to her office. I went to the office where she explained that the school was hosting an English speech competition in 2 weeks. She had noticed my good spoken English in class and wanted to ask if I was interested in participating. I stared blankly at the registration form in my hand. If I remain as timid and hesitant to speak up as I was in my past life, would the teacher even notice whether my spoken English is good or not? Would this opportunity never have come my way just like in my past life? I never even heard about this speech competition. All right, teacher. I'll participate. I hear myself say, indeed, some things must be fought for by oneself. Gold will always shine. But this saying only applies if the gold has the courage to break through the earth. If the gamble is won, it will shine brilliantly. If lost, it becomes mere grains of sand in the Jinsha River, buried in dust and hidden in mud. But if it never breaks through the earth, no matter how beautiful the gold is, it will remain just a lump of dirt. Half a month passed quickly, and I had memorized the draft thoroughly.
The
English teacher also helped me correct several mistakes and pointed out key points to pay attention to during the
speech.
entering the school auditorium. It was packed with a sea of people.
I
Took a deep breath and went on stage to draw lot. Number 11, a number that was neither too early nor too late for the me of this lifetime. This was my first time participating in a large-scale speech competition. But for the 27-year-old me, public speaking had already become a required course. Stepping onto the stage, I looked at the audience below and smiled slightly. Before beginning my speech, 1 minute, 2 minutes, time's up. With a steady performance, I let out a light sigh of relief. After it ended, I returned to class for self-study. As usual in this lifetime, having decided to choose the humanities track, I've been paying more attention to accumulating knowledge.
the
First year, high school curriculum wasn't
too heavy for me.
Sometimes I would borrow history books and English magazines from the school library. Early the next morning, as soon as I arrived in the classroom, I heard my deskmate's excited voice. Tessa, have you seen the school's confession wall? Oh my God. Someone posted your speech competition video from yesterday. You looked so beautiful. Speech competition.
I
Listened, feeling a bit confused.
It's
The post the school shared about yesterday's speech competition. So many people are looking for you on the confession wall. Take a look. I watched the video playing on the screen. The girl in the video wore a simple white shirt and jeans, her fresh face free of makeup, radiating youthful energy.
what
Was most striking was her fluent spoken English and the confidence in her every gesture exuding a unique charm. So this is how others see me. I scrolled through the comments below. Oh my God, this girl is so pretty. How come no one noticed her before upstairs? That should be the top student from class 1. The freak who scored 137 in Chinese last time. Heard from her classmates that she's usually quite introverted and doesn't talk much. Introverted. If she's introverted, then I must be socially withdrawn. Okay. With such good English, being so beautiful and still ranking first, I can't go on living woo-woo. Reading their comments, I felt my face flush a little. It was the first time I became the focus of public discussion. And this feeling seems quite nice, but it might also be due to the accumulation from my past life. After being reborn, I paid more attention to skincare, maintained a lighter diet, the acne on my face disappeared, and my skin even became a bit fairer than before.
could
It be that I've become prettier than before? I thought uncertainly.
soon came.
The day for choosing subjects in the second semester of the first year of
High school.
attention, everyone.
The
Homeroom teacher, Brother Dong, adjusted his glasses. Hand in your subject selection forms to the podium, and then you can leave. Staring at the bold words arts and sciences selection form on the sheet, I decisively wrote down politics, history, and geography. Without hesitation, my deskmate Yang Yu widened her eyes when she saw what I had written. Tessa, you're choosing the liberal arts. Yeah, I nodded. But if your mom finds out you chose liberal arts, she'll skin you alive, she gasped. I was imitating my mom's signature, but the tip of my pen paused for a moment. Upon hearing those words uncontrollably, my mother's shrill voice echoed in my mind. What future is there in studying liberal arts?
I've worked so hard to
Raise you all these years. If it weren't for you, I would have divorced your father long ago. You must listen to me. I tightened my grip on the pen in my
hand.
then let her strip it away.
A
Commotion arose at the back door of the classroom as Dean Lin walked in, one hand in his pocket. The sunlight outlined his tall, straight figure, the boy I had been infatuated with for over a decade in my past life was now walking
Toward me.
Tessu. He looked down at me, his voice carrying its usual nonchalance. What subject are you choosing?
In my
Past life, it was because of these words that I changed my mind. But now I look straight into his eyes. Liberal arts. Liberal arts. Dean Lin furrows his brows as if he's heard a joke. Don't be ridiculous. Of course you should choose science.
Why?
I calmly retort. Because he stammers for a moment, then waves his hand impatiently. Science offers more career options. Besides, we're all choosing science. What would you do? Alone in a liberal arts class? You're absolutely right. Mean Guan, a sickly, sweet female voice chimed in. Blair Shu had somehow appeared beside Dean Lin, intimately looping her arm through his. Science students are so impressive. Isn't liberal arts just about memorizing books? Could it be that some people are only switching to liberal arts because their science grades are too terrible to pass? A few snickers rippled through the classroom. In my past life, it was precisely this kind of mockery that shattered my self-esteem. But now, Blair Shu, I slowly rose to my feet, my voice
Clear and steady.
Are you aware that last year's admission score for the School of Liberal Arts at Peking University was 30 points higher than that of the School of Science? Do you know that last year's provincial liberal arts top score was being fought over by 5 elite universities simultaneously? The classroom fell silent instantly. Everyone stared at me in astonishment. Tessu, who usually obeyed Dean Lin's every word, was actually publicly refuting him. Blair Shu's expression
Changed.
What do you mean? I mean, don't judge my choices with your ignorance. Dean Lin grabbed my wrist. Tessa, have you lost your mind? I shook off his hand. Dean Lin, it's been 10 years from elementary school to high
School.
I've always followed you, never daring to go against your word.
But have
you ever once truly considered my feelings? His expression froze.
I
Continued. In 7th grade, I wanted to join the essay competition, but you said it was a waste of time. In 9th grade, I wanted to enroll in the liberal arts preparatory class, but you insisted science had better prospects.
I've been
Like your shadow, always revolving around you. But now I want to be myself. Besides, I glanced at him. No matter how many opportunities science offers, in the end, there's only one path to take. What I fear most is that some people might block every single path for me. After submitting the form, I knew another storm was inevitable. Countless episodes of hysterics and unreasonable demands, all under the guise of acting in my best interest while dictating my
life.
I've long grown accustomed to it. I tightened the straps of my backpack and strolled leisurely toward the school
Gate.
I saw Mom standing at the school gate wearing that familiar black suit, her entire demeanor as gloomy as the sky before storm. Mom, I called out. Have you submitted the subject selection form? She asked indifferently. I have.
I
Took half a step back. I chose the humanities. Her expression froze as if someone had hit pause. What did you say? I looked up at her. I said I chose the humanities. The humanities? Her voice suddenly rose. What can you even do with that? Are you trying to kill me?
have.
You seen Aunt Wang's daughter?
She
Studied computer science and was making 20,000 a month right after graduation. But this is my own life, I said, meeting her gaze. I should at least have the right to decide. Shouldn't I? She looked at my stubborn face, seemed momentarily stunned. then tossed out a suit yourself, and walked ahead. When we got home, my mom immediately turned my backpack inside out. She pulled out the copy of Asterisk 100 Years of Solitude Asterisk I'd hidden in the inner pocket and said, coldly, Tessa, no more phone for you. From now on, and these miscellaneous books confiscated. You want to study liberal arts, don't you? If you don't, get into a good university, we'll settle the score then. Later, my mom started keeping a close watch on me, going through my backpack every day and even strictly monitoring the time I spent searching for answers on my phone. I was mentally and physically exhausted.
A
Turning point came during a monthly exam. It was the third monthly exam. After the subject division, the school has always had the habit of weekly and monthly exams, with at least 5 tests. A month after the subject division, no longer burdened by physics, my grades stabilized at the top of the class and within the top 3 in the grade. Though math often held me back when I couldn't solve math problems, I would habitually write something. I have a dedicated notebook for recording inspirations or random thoughts, which also includes a few practice short stories. After the monthly exam, there's always a lot of homework to submit, inevitably causing some chaos. The Chinese teacher, as usual, asked us to hand in our excerpt notebooks. I placed mine on the desk and went to collect the history assignments. When I returned, I found the excerpt notebook still lying on the desk. Thinking the class representative might have missed it, I took the assignment to the office myself. During the evening self-study session, I was so dizzy from solving math problems that I wanted to write something to relax, only to find my notebook missing. I searched everywhere, but couldn't find it. So I asked my desk mate, yeah, do you have my black notebook? Black notebook.
She
tilted her head and thought, didn't we hand it in this morning? Hearing this, I thought to myself, this is bad. You handed it in for me.
Yeah.
I shut my eyes tightly, thinking to myself, I'm done for. As soon as class ended, I rushed straight to the Chinese teacher's office, silently praying that she hadn't seen my notebook yet. When I arrived at the office, I saw the Chinese teacher sitting at her desk, engrossed in reading a black notebook. I'm done for. The sky is falling. The Chinese teacher saw me and waved me over. Tessu, come here. Clutching the hem of my clothes, I stood before the teacher with the resolve of one facing death. Teacher. This, she waved the notebook in her hand. Did you write it? I nodded. Yeah, just writing casually.
She patted me on the
shoulder. Not bad at all. Especially this piece, cicada molting. The concept is quite profound. I didn't know what to say, so I could only smile awkwardly. Interested in submitting it for publication?
She asked me.
Realizing what she was saying, I was flattered. Submit my work. Really, your short stories are quite good, and the essays are decent, too. You might as well give it a try, she encouraged me. There's no harm in trying. So, with the teacher's encouragement, I submitted those 2 short stories to the school magazine. I thought they would disappear without a trace, but, to my surprise, a month later, I received a response.
Dear
author, congratulations on your manuscript being accepted. Please keep your contact information accessible as we will be processing your payment and sending you a complimentary copy of the
book.
The moment I received the acceptance message, I immediately told my Chinese language teacher. She was also very happy for me and encouraged me to continue writing as long as it didn't interfere with my studies. She also promised to keep it a secret for me.
But
if your grades drop in the next monthly Exam. I'll have to tell your homeroom teacher, she told me with a smile. Through my interactions with the Chinese teacher, I realized that when you genuinely want to improve, the whole world will cheer for you, except for Dean Lin in Chinese class. The teacher walked into the classroom holding a stack of composition books. There are several outstanding essays this time, especially Tessa's piece Beyond Labels. My heart skipped a beat. In my past life, my essays had never been publicly
praised.
This article is profound in thought, fluid in writing, and what's even more rare is its genuine emotion. Teacher Lee adjusted his glasses.
With
Tessa's permission, I'd like to read a passage to everyone. As my words echoed through the classroom in Teacher Lee's voice, a strange feeling welled up inside me. In my past life in the workplace, it was common for my copy to be altered beyond recognition by clients. But now, my original writing was being read aloud and appreciated with such solemnity. When we stop measuring ourselves with others' rulers, we can finally discover the true contours of our hearts. As Teacher Lee finished reading the last sentence, the classroom erupted in enthusiastic applause. My new deskmate Lin Yu nudged my arm excitedly.
Tessa, your
writing is amazing.
How did you
practice? Just read and write more, I replied modestly, though a warm feeling surged in my heart.
So, this is how it
feels to be professionally recognized. It's really nice. After class, a few, usually quiet classmates gathered around, eagerly asking for writing tips. I patiently answered each one when suddenly I noticed a familiar figure at the back door of the classroom.
Dean
Lin was standing there, his expression
dark.
Once the crowd dispersed, he approached me. You're quite popular now,
he said.
Can I help you? I closed my notebook. You haven't come to see me at all these 2 weeks. He lowered his voice just to fit in with these nerds.
I
took a deep breath. I've been busy preparing for the speech competition and also all excuses. Dean Lin interrupted.
Me.
You've changed, Tessa. Are you throwing away our decade-long friendship just for some vanity?
I
looked at the angry boy in front of me and suddenly felt he was utterly unfamiliar. The me from my past life would have been anxious and uneasy because of his words, but now I only found it absurd.
Dean Lin, I said calmly.
True friendship shouldn't become shackles that bind each other.
His
expression looked as if he'd been
slapped. Fine.
Very well. Don't come begging me for help later. With that, he turned and stormed out, slamming the door so hard it shook the room. I sighed and turned my attention back to the newly distributed Chinese exam paper. Turns out, when you stop caring about someone, their joys and sorrows can no longer affect your forward momentum. The unexpected gain from this submission was Mom has gradually come to accept my decision to choose the liberal arts. For the first time ever, she picked up some food for me at the dinner table. Study hard. You have quite a talent for the liberal arts, she said stiffly. Mom supports your decision.
You're right.
This is your own life, and you can decide for yourself. I felt a weight lifted off my shoulders.
Class. The
midterm exams are scheduled for the 10th of next month, said homeroom teacher Mr. Lee during Monday's class meeting, adjusting his glasses. This time the ranking will be a combined evaluation of both arts and sciences subjects. I hope everyone takes it seriously. The classroom immediately erupted in groans. Lin Xiaoyu leaned over and whispered in my ear, We're going to get crushed by the science students again. Any one of their STEM subjects can pull them ahead by dozens of points. I stared at the desk, recalling how in my past life, after every major exam, the science class would always mock the rankings of The arts class, and I had once been among the mockers. Now that the roles were reversed, I finally understood how unfair this system was designed to be. Quiet, Mr. Lee tapped the lecture. I know. Everyone is under pressure, but the art stream has its own strengths. For example, his gaze swept across the classroom before settling on me. For example, Tessa's English score in last month's exam was the third highest in
the grade.
The entire class turned to look at me in unison. My ears burned as I lowered my head, pretending to organize my notes. I propose forming a study group, continued Teacher Lee. Everyone can learn from each other's strengths and compensate for weaknesses. After the class bell rang, several classmates gathered around. Tessa, how do you study English? Can you share your methods? Questions came one after another. Actually, I hesitated for a moment. I think reading original books helps the most, but we can't even remember the vocabulary from our textbooks. How are we supposed to read original books? A boy wailed. I bit my lip, suddenly recalling the book club at my previous company.
How about we form a
reading group? Starting with something simple, reading a chapter together each week and discussing new words and sentences. That's a great idea. Lineo immediately responded. How about starting with The Little Prince?
It's
short and the vocabulary isn't too difficult. And just like that, the first English book club of Class 3 in the liberal arts stream was hastily formed. At first, only 5 people signed up, and we scheduled to meet for 1 hour every Wednesday after school. The first session was nothing short of a disaster. We looked up over 20 words in just 3 pages, making progress as slow as a snail. By the end, one girl said dejectedly, I feel like I'll never finish reading this book in my lifetime. On my way home, I racked my brains trying to figure out how to improve. How did the organizer of the book club in my previous company do it? A division of labor and collaboration. Before the second session, I made thorough preparations. I divided the text into sections in advance, assigned pre-reading tasks, and even prepared background information about the author. This time, the efficiency improved significantly, and everyone even started discussing the moral of the story.
Did
you notice a usually quiet girl suddenly said the rose might represent vanity and
love?
The discussion about Dean was so lively that the 1-hour event was extended to 2 hours. By the end, everyone was still eager for more, so they agreed to read a few more chapters. Next time, at the third gathering, a few new faces appeared in the classroom. It turned out that other classmates had heard our book club was really fun and wanted to give it a try. Teacher Lee happened to pass by and asked with a smile if he could sit in. A month later, the book club had grown to 15 members, forcing us to move to an unused lab. We finished reading The Little Prince and are now on flip to my grader.
Delight.
The class's average English score improved by 6 points, and Teacher Lee specially praised this spontaneous learning group during the class meeting. On Wednesday afternoon, I was busy preparing materials for the book club when Lin Xiaoyu rushed into the classroom. Tessa, guess what I just heard outside the men's restroom?
The
men's restroom? What were you doing there? I asked without looking up. That's not the point. Lineo lowered her
voice.
Dean Lin and his cronies were bad-mouthing you, he said. She suddenly hesitated. I put down my pen. What did he say? He said, Tessu is acting all high and mighty now, but just wait until the midterm math exam ramps up in difficulty. She'll surely show her true colors and come crawling back to beg for my tutoring. Lin Xiaoyu imitated Dean Lin's arrogant tone. It makes me So angry. I froze for a moment, then let out a light chuckle. In my past life, these words would have devastated me, but now they just seem laughable. Dean Lin has always believed that my switch to liberal arts was an impulsive decision, a petulant gamble doomed to
Fail.
Don't mind him. I patted Lin C's shoulder, preparing for today's discussion. Questions is more important.
But deep down, Dean,
Lin's words still stung me.
the
Midterm exams combined ranking of arts and science students was indeed a challenge, especially in mathematics, where science students generally had an advantage. I secretly resolved to achieve excellent results and show everyone the strength of an art student. For the next 2 weeks, I threw myself into a frenzy of exam preparation. Wake up at 5 every day, start with an hour of memorizing politics and history, do English listening exercises during breaks, solve math problems during lunch break, organize comprehensive arts knowledge until midnight. I also focused on strengthening potential major math problems based on memories from my past life. The night before the midterm exam, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep.
my
Mind was filled with thoughts of how Dean Lin would mock me if I failed.
at
2 a.m., I got up and wrote in my diary not to prove anything but to live up to myself. The exams lasted 3 days during the most challenging math
subject.
I encountered several major problems I had no clue how to solve, and my palms were sweaty after the test.
But
Chinese and English felt good, especially the essay where I skillfully incorporated prepared material. When the final exam bell rang, I let out a long sigh of relief. No matter the outcome, at least I had given it my all.
during
The week, waiting for the results to be
announced.
the book club continued as usual. We started reading 1984, and the discussions were more lively than ever. Mr. Lee occasionally joined in sharing his insights. After one session, he kept me behind and said, "Tessu, you've inspired the entire class's learning atmosphere. That's truly rare. I just organized it a bit," I said sheepishly. "No, it's more than just organizing." Teacher Lee looked at me earnestly.
You
Showed everyone the possibility of learning. That's precious. On Friday morning, the grade list was finally posted. Lin Xiaoyu and I squeezed into the crowd of onlookers, searching for our names from the bottom up.
This was a
Habit among liberal arts students, since we usually didn't appear at the top. "Oh, my God, Tessa!" Lin Xiaoyu suddenly screamed, "You're here."
She pointed to
The top 30 section, where my name was
clearly listed.
20th place, Tesso. Class 3 Liberal Arts. What shocked me even more was the English subject, ranking 4th in the grade. This can't be, I muttered to myself. In my previous life, my best ranking was only around 80th in the grade. Look, Lin Xiaoyu excitedly pointed at another list. 3 from our class are in the top 10 for
English.
Everyone in the book club has improved. I carefully checked my scores for each subject. Chinese 139, Math 110, English 145, and Liberal Arts 264. Although math was still my weak point, the other subjects were almost all performing beyond expectations.
On the
way back to the classroom, we ran into the science class students. Dean Lin walked at the front and visibly paused. When he saw me, the boy beside him nudged him. "Isn't that your little follower?" I heard they ranked second in the grade this time. Dean Lin's expression darkened instantly.
The
liberal arts questions were just easier. That's all. I had intended to ignore them and walk straight past, but as we brushed shoulders, I heard Dean Lin mutter, "Don't get cocky.
next time.
You Won't be so lucky. This sentence actually made me laugh. Yes, I'll do better next time. Dean Lin clearly didn't expect me to respond and was momentarily speechless. His friends let out a few teasing noises and he, embarrassed and angry, said, "Well, see about that." During the class meeting after the midterm exams, Teacher Lee beamed with joy. This time our class's average score ranks 4th in the grade, an improvement of 3 places from last time.
Special
Recognition goes to Tesso, who ranked 20th overall in the grade and 4th in
English.
The whole class erupted in applause, and I was so embarrassed.
I
Wished I could crawl under the desk, but a small voice inside me whispered, "See, you can do it." After school, I overheard a conversation between Teacher Lee and Teacher Lo, the homeroom teacher of the science class, outside the office. I never expected Tessa Sue to excel so much in liberal arts. Teacher Lu said with surprise her science grades were just average in freshman year. It's a good thing she chose liberal arts. Some students are like particular flowers.
Teacher Lee replied, "They need the right soil to bloom."
I walked away quietly, feeling warm inside. Yes, I finally found the soil that belongs to me.
While
organizing my school bag in the evening, a note fell out of the English book. Above was Teacher Zhang's neat handwriting. The municipal English debate competition registration has begun, and I've recommended you.
If
interested, come talk to me in detail on Monday. I carefully tucked the note into my diary and wrote beneath today's date. So hard work really does pay off, not to make anyone regret, but just to see a better version of myself. When the bell rang for the last subject of the final exams, I let out a long sigh, put down my pen, and stretched my stiff fingers. Outside the window, the July sun was scorching and glaring, while the classroom was filled with a tense atmosphere mingled with the scent of
sweat.
How did the exam go? Lin Xiaoyu leaned in and asked quietly. Not bad. Just a bit unsure about the last big question in history. I rubbed my temples. I prepared more thoroughly for this exam than for the midterms, especially in math. I finished all the past 5 years' final exam papers.
You're
not bad. Probably means top 5 in the
grade.
Lin Xiaoyu pouted. I'm just praying not to fall out of the top 100. Or my mom will definitely sign me up for summer tutoring. While packing my bag, I noticed Dean Lin standing at the classroom door, looking at me with a complicated gaze. It had been 2 weeks since our last encounter in the library, and we hadn't spoken since. He looked noticeably more haggard with dark circles under his eyes. I heard you
didn't make it to the provincial team
for the physics competition. I stopped as I passed by him. Dean Lin's lips
twitched.
Just a temporary lapse in performance. He stared at my backpack. How did you do on the test? We'll know when the results come out. I replied with a smile, avoiding a direct answer. In my past life, I would have eagerly reported every subject's details to him, even apologizing for minor mistakes, terrified of disappointing him. Tessa, Dean Lin suddenly called out to me as I had already turned away. Will you be attending the class reunion this summer?
Depends.
I have a lot planned. I waved, without turning back. Stepping out of the school gate, a wave of heat hit my face. Squinting at the dazzling sun, I mentally calculated my summer schedule. 2 hours of English listening and speaking practice every morning, 3 hours of focused review in the afternoon, and reading and writing in the evening.
What
was I doing during summer vacations in my past life? Following Dean Lin to internet cafes, copying his summer homework for him, or sitting foolishly by the court watching him play basketball. Those meaningless moments now seem so extravagantly precious that it aches my heart. The report card came out a week after the holiday started.
I
Was helping Mom cut fruits in the kitchen when I heard Dad suddenly shout from the living room, "Tessa, come here. Quick." Wiping my hands, I ran over and saw Dad holding his phone with the teacher's report card on the screen.
His
Face wearing an expression I'd never seen before. Shock, pride, and a hint of disbelief. Ranked 18th in the grade.
He
Pointed at his phone, second in English. For the entire grade, and your Chinese essay was selected as a model for the whole grade. Mom hugged me tightly and I could feel her trembling slightly.
In
my previous life, right up until my death, my parents never saw a single decent report card for me. Now I could finally give them this long overdue joy. Teacher Lee also left a comment. Dad put on his glasses and read.
Student Tessa
Has demonstrated exceptional talent in the humanities and a diligent spirit, with the potential to aim for top-tier universities. It is recommended to maintain the study routine during summer break with a focus on overcoming weaknesses in mathematics. That evening, the family had a sumptuous dinner, a rare treat. Dad even opened a bottle of red wine he had been saving for years and poured me a small half-glass.
My
Daughter will surely achieve more than I ever did, he said with a tipsy smile, his eyes sparkling. After dinner, I returned to my room and opened my newly bought planner. On the page titled Summer Goals, I solemnly wrote, strengthen my strengths, address my weaknesses, and prepare for the final sprint of senior year.
Then I
Meticulously listed out my daily study plan and reading list. My phone suddenly vibrated. It was a message from Lin. Xiaoyu. Help. I failed math.
My mom
Sign me up for a brutal cramming of crying emojis. I was about to reply when another message popped up. By the way, Dean Lin has been asking everyone about your grades when he heard you made it into the top 20. His face turned
green.
LOL. I put down my phone without responding to the part about Dean Lin. There was a time when his every move could stir my emotions, but now I can't even spare a shred of curiosity.
The
summer vacation passed faster than expected. I maintained a strict routine, waking up at 6 a.m. for a run, then memorizing vocabulary and listening to BBC News focusing on math and comprehensive liberal arts in the morning, reading literary works and English originals in the afternoon, and writing reading notes or essays in the evening. I also went to the library twice a week. It had air conditioning and a great study atmosphere. At the end of July, I received a reply from Youth Literature the essay When the Cicadas Sing in Summer which I had submitted 2 months prior, was accepted and will be published in the September issue. Enclosed with the letter was a payment slip for 200 yuan and a handwritten note from the editor. Your writing is delicate and heartfelt. We look forward to more submissions. I read the letter 3 times, then carefully tucked it into my diary. This was my first official publication outside of school. Far more thrilling than any exam ranking. It proved that my words had
value.
They weren't just for my own amusement. In mid-August, my classmates organized a gathering. I didn't want to go at first, but Lin Xiaoyu wouldn't take no for an answer. Please, it would be so awkward if I went alone.
Besides,
you haven't seen everyone in ages.
Don't
you want to show off your stellar grades? In the end, I agreed to accompany her, but with 3 conditions: no more than 2 hours, no KTV, and no alcohol. The gathering was held at a buffet restaurant. We arrived slightly late, and over 20 people were already seated in the private room, making as much noise as a bustling marketplace. Dean Lin was the center of attention, holding court as he loudly discussed the dark side of his physics competition. My experimental scores were clearly higher, but the judges favored the students from the provincial experimental school. His voice trailed off as he saw me enter the room.
Tessa.
Several girls gathered around me.
We
heard your grades are amazing. After switching to the liberal arts class, I smiled and nodded, then found a corner
to sit in.
Soon questions came pouring
In.
Is liberal arts super easy?
Is it
just memorizing stuff every day? How did you learn English? I heard you ranked second in your grade. How does it feel to have your essay chosen as a model piece? I answered each question one by one, trying to stay humble, but I could feel Dean Lin's gaze fixed on me, as if trying to burn a hole through me. Tessa is amazing now, Lin Xiaoyu suddenly announced loudly. Her article is going to be published in Youth Literature, and before that she even had a short story published in the school magazine. The private room fell silent for a few seconds before erupting in exclamations of amazement. Several girls immediately asked to see the published work, while the boys cast surprised glances. In this ordinary high school, students who could get their writing published in official magazines were as rare as phoenix feathers. It's just paid placement, isn't it? Dean Lin's voice cut in abruptly. There are plenty of shady magazines like that these days. Lin Xiaoyu was about to retort when I pressed her hand. Youth Literature is sponsored by the Provincial Writers Association and has been in publication for over 30 years, I said calmly, looking at Dean Lin. If you're interested, you can check it out at the library. The latest issue was published in September. Dean Lin's face darkened. He suddenly stood up, exclaiming, "Who cares about some lousy magazine? Science students rely on real skills. Getting recommended through competitions is what truly matters."
The
gathering ended on a sour note. On the bus ride home, Lin Xiaoyu was still fuming. Dean Lin is just jealous of
you.
I heard that after he failed the physics competition, he didn't even qualify for Singa's independent recruitment. Gazing at the streets flashing by outside the window, I felt an unusual calm within. In my past life, I would have doubted myself because of Dean Lin's rejection and even given up writing. But now my worth no longer needs his validation. In the last week of summer vacation, I received an email from teacher Lee informing me that the school had decided to have me as the student representative to speak at the opening ceremony of the senior year.
The
theme was youth and dreams, and I was asked to prepare a 5-minute speech.
I
spent 3 days refining this speech, revising it repeatedly, and even recording it to listen to the effect.
My
mom became my first audience, and after listening, she said with teary eyes, "My daughter has truly grown up."
On the
day of the opening ceremony, I stood backstage in the auditorium dressed in a simple white blouse and a dark blue pleated skirt, waiting to go on. The audience was filled with the entire school's faculty and students, and the buzz of conversation came like waves.
I
took a deep breath, recalling how in my past life I would bow and scrape to revise proposals in front of the leadership, and suddenly felt a lump in my throat. Next, let's welcome Tessa from Class 3 of the Liberal Arts track in grade 12 to deliver a speech as the student representative. I stepped onto the podium and adjusted the microphone's height. Sunlight streamed through the high windows of the auditorium, casting a spotlight on the stage as if intentionally arranged. Respected teachers, dear classmates, good afternoon. My voice echoed clearly through the hall. Today I want to talk not about how to get into a good university, but why we should strive for one. The speech went smoothly. I spoke about the original intention behind choosing the liberal arts, about failure and perseverance, about finding one's own path. The audience was unusually quiet, with even the normally rowdiest freshmen listening attentively. Midway through my speech, I noticed Teacher Lee nodding slightly in the judges' panel. The most beautiful part of youth isn't the moment when dreams come true, but the version of yourself that gives everything while chasing those dreams. Thank you, everyone. Thunderous applause erupted, lasting nearly a full minute. By the time I stepped off the stage, my back was soaked with sweat, but my heart felt an unprecedented sense of exhilaration. This time, I had conquered the cowardly version of myself from the past. On my way back to my seat, I noticed Dean Lin sitting in the science class section, looking at me with a complicated expression. The moment our eyes met, he quickly averted his gaze and pretended to talk to the person next to him. After the ceremony, the principal came over to shake my hand. A wonderful speech, Sue. I hope to hear the good news next year that you've been admitted to Peking University. I'll do my best, Principal, I confidently replied. On the way back to the classroom, juniors kept coming up to congratulate me, with a few even shyly asking for autographs. Lin Xiaoyu dramatically threw an arm around my shoulders. Big star, give me an autograph, too. When you're famous, I'll auction it off. In the first class meeting of senior year, Teacher Lee announced the citywide joint exam rankings from the end of the previous semester when he mentioned our school's highest score in liberal arts is Tasu, ranked 47th in the city. The whole class erupted in cheers. This ranking meant that as long as she maintained it, admission to a top-tier university was almost guaranteed. However, Teacher Lee's tone shifted. Senior year is the real battlefield. In previous years, many students performed well early on but lost momentum later. I hope everyone remains humble and perseveres until the end. After school, I ran into Dean Lin and his mother at the school gate. Mrs. Chun enthusiastically grabbed my hand and said, Tessa, I heard you have excellent grades. If you have time, could you come to our house and tutor Dean Lin in Chinese and English? Those are his weak subjects. Dean Lin stood aside, his face ashen. In my past life, I tried every possible way to get Dean Lin to chew to me, but now the tables have turned. Perhaps the old me would have been overjoyed by such an invitation. But now I just find it absurd. Sorry, Auntie. Senior year is just too hectic. I politely declined. Dean Lin can join the school's advanced class. Mr. Lee is an excellent teacher. On the way home, the autumn breeze carried the faint fragrance of osman thus flowers. I touched the newly issued textbooks in my backpack, my heart filled with anticipation rather than fear. The towering mountain of senior year, which once seemed daunting, now appeared as nothing more than a small hill on the path of growth. In my diary, beneath the date of the first day of school, I wrote, when you know where you're going, the whole world will make way for you, and my journey has only just begun. The results of the first mock exam of senior year lay on the desk. I stared at the number for a full minute. 32nd in the grade, a drop of 14 places. From the end of last semester, the questions were unusually difficult this time, and most students scored about 20 points lower. Teacher Lee analyzed the Test papers from the podium. Don't focus too much on the scores. The key is to identify and fill the gaps. That being said, my fingers still unconsciously dug into my palms. Math and geography were particularly bad. I carelessly miscalculated two major math problems, and I completely failed to grasp the new question types in geography.
Tessa,
Mr. Lee called out to me after the bell rang. Come to my office when you have time. The air conditioner in the office hummed as Mr.
Lee poured me a
cup of hot water. Not doing well lately. I pursed my lips carefully, choosing my words. Maybe a bit tired. Normal. Teacher Lee took out a file from the
drawer.
This is the analysis of your answers from last month's exam.
It's
clear you've put a lot of effort into math and the improvement is obvious. But you've slacked off in the comprehensive liberal arts subjects, especially in regional analysis for geography. I took the file, which had detailed suggestions marked in red by
Teacher Lee.
My past life's workplace experience immediately made me realize the problem. I fell into the trap of focusing on weaknesses while neglecting strengths, obsessing over my math shortcomings while overlooking my strong subjects in the humanities.
Senior year
is like a marathon. Teacher Lee's voice was gentle yet firm. You can't sprint from the start. You need to pace yourself wisely. Your strengths lie in Chinese and English. Maintain those while steadily improving math. That's the optimal strategy. Leaving the office, I took a deep breath. The September sun was still blazing, casting a distinctive scent from the plastic track on the playground. Perhaps I should take it easy. During my previous life, when work stress was high, I developed a habit of night running. Those moments running along the riverside often helped me clear my mind. Why not start now? After dinner that day, I announced my new routine, a half-hour run at 6 a.m. every morning. No more late nights after self-study sessions and ensuring 7 hours of sleep. Are you sure? Mom asked with concern. Senior year is so tight on time. Sharpening the axe won't delay the cutting of firewood. Dad, unexpectedly, supported me. It's good that Tessa has her own ideas. The next morning, as the first rays of sunlight pierced through the clouds, I had already been jogging in the neighborhood for 20 minutes. Sweat trickled down my forehead. My heart raced, but my mind was unusually clear. Taking a shower after the run and then starting to study indeed improved efficiency significantly. The adjusted study plan became more balanced. 2. Fixed hours for math each day, no longer encroaching on other subjects. Geography focused on breaking through weak areas. Compiling a set of regional feature analysis templates. Chinese and English maintained daily accumulation, no longer deliberately cramming with practice questions. During lunch break a week later, while I was organizing geography notes, Lin Xiaoyu mysteriously leaned in and said, "Guess what I just heard in the teacher's office?" I continued, marking the key points without looking up. Dean Lin's mom came to see Teacher Liu, saying, "Dean Lin has been feeling down lately, and his grades are fluctuating." Lin Xiaoyu whispered, "And guess what?" She actually said, "It's because of you." My pen paused. "What does that have to do with me?" She said, "Dean Lin has been used to having you as his sidekick, admiring him since childhood. And now that you've suddenly surpassed him, he can't handle it." Lin. Zaya rolled her eyes. "The worst part is," she said, "girls studying liberal arts tend to lack staying power." I bit my lower lip. Dean Lin's mother's rhetoric was all too familiar to me. In my past life, she had always believed that girls should study easy majors too.
Make it more convenient for them to
Support their husbands and raise children in the future. What did Professor Liu say? I couldn't help but
ask.
Teacher Liu said. Lin Xiaoyu suddenly sat up straight, imitating Teacher Liu's stern tone. Student Tessot has performed exceptionally well in the humanities, and there is absolutely no issue of lacking stamina. On the contrary, she is now a top contender for Peking University.
I
Burst out laughing, picturing Teacher Liu's unsmiling face in my mind.
I
Never expected this homeroom teacher of the science class to speak up for me. And there's more. Lin Xiaoyu continued excitedly. Dean Lin's mom happened to run into your mom when she came to pick up your little brother and told her girls shouldn't push themselves too hard. Your mom fired right back.
My
daughter is going to be a writer in the future. How can she not push herself?
My
heart warmed instantly in my past life. My mother had never publicly defended me like this. More often, she would advise me to just play it safe. During the afternoon PE class, I took leave because of my period and was reading alone in the classroom. The door suddenly swung open and Dean Lin walked in with a dark expression, clearly taken aback when he saw me.
You didn't go to PE class. He
stood at the door, seemingly unsure whether to come in. I took leave.
I
closed my book. What's up?
Dean Lin
glanced around, making sure no one was there, then slowly walked over and sat in the front row. Did my mom cause trouble for yours yesterday? I raised an eyebrow, surprised that he would bring it up himself. Not exactly trouble, just a difference in opinion. She can be a bit too traditional at times. Dean Lin showed a rare hint of embarrassment. I've already told her that my affairs have nothing to do with you.
Sunlight
slanted through the window, casting across his face, and only then did I notice the dark circles under his eyes were worse than during summer break.
He
exuded an air of tension. Are you okay? Out of habit, I still asked. What could possibly be wrong? Dean Lin immediately reverted to that defensive tone.
It's
just one failed mock exam. As for you, don't think getting into the top 30 of your grade a few times makes you special. The real test is the college entrance exam. I shook my head and didn't respond further. In my past life, his attitude would have wounded me.
But
now I only feel pity. He can't even express concern without disguising it as an attack. Dean Lin stood up to leave, then suddenly turned back. That article you published, can I take a look?
The
request was so unexpected that I froze for a few seconds before pulling out that issue of youth literature
from my
bag. This one, When the Cicadas Sing in Summer. He took the magazine quickly, flipped to the page I had dog-eared, skimmed through it, and wore a complicated expression. I didn't expect you could actually write. There are plenty of things you didn't expect.
I
calmly took the magazine back. After Dean Lin left, the classroom returned to silence. I gazed at the classmates running on the playground outside the window, my thoughts drifting far away. There was a time when a single word of praise from Dean Lin could make me happy for an entire day. But now his evaluations feel as light as a feather. At the beginning of October, I received an unexpected email. An editor from the City Youth newspaper contacted me saying they had seen my article in Youth Literature and invited me to contribute to their newly launched Youth Chronicles column. The feeling of having an article published in a formal newspaper for the first time was truly magical. That piece, Autumn Notes, appeared in the lower right corner of the art section. Though not lengthy, it was accompanied by an exquisite illustration. To my even greater delight, a week later, I received a letter from a reader, a retired Chinese teacher, who filled the page with elegant handwriting, praising the article and offering suggestions.
I
Carefully tucked the letter into my diary along with the 600 yuan payment.
slip.
The first time in both my lives that I had earned money through writing. As my published works increased, the Chinese teacher suggested I compile a collection of my pieces to prepare for future university independent admissions. Thus, every weekend I took on a new task, selecting and revising the essays and reflections I had written over the past 2 years, assembling them into a volume. Have you decided on a title? The Chinese literature teacher asked while flipping through my draft.
A
Dialogue between 17 and 30. I replied, it's about various reflections on growing up. The teacher nodded thoughtfully. It has depth, but for the independent admissions materials, you need to highlight your academic potential. I suggest adding 2 more literary critiques. By the third mock exam in November, my ranking had climbed back to around the top 10 in my grade. My math score finally broke through the 120-point barrier, and geography has returned to the ranks of excellence. What delighted me even more was Chinese. My essay scored 58 points,
with the
comment, profound thinking and polished writing. Your current state is excellent, Teacher Zhang said with satisfaction while analyzing the test papers. Maintain this rhythm and don't put too much pressure on yourself. Pressure does exist, but unlike the blind anxiety of my past life, the pressure now feels more like a driving
force. During my morning jog each day, I
organized the day study plan in my mind. The 15-minute walk after evening self-study is reserved for brainstorming new article ideas. One morning in December, I ran into Dean Lin and his mother at the school gate. Mrs. Lin looked somewhat awkward when she saw me, but still nodded and said, Tessa, I heard you write very well. Not bad.
I've
published a few pieces. I replied, politely. Dean Lin only scored 105 in
Chinese this time.
Mrs. Chen nudged her. Son, do you have any study methods you
Could share?
Dean Lin stood to the
Side.
his expression extremely uncomfortable.
I suddenly found this
Scene somewhat ironic. The roles were reversed, yet the mindset was entirely
different.
just read and write more.
I
Glanced at my watch. Sorry, I need to go. Hand in my assignment. After walking some distance, I heard Aunt Chen's reproachful voice. Look at how others. The rest of her words were carried away by the wind. The week the cold wave hit, I came down with a bad cold and had to take 3 days off. Lying in bed with a fever, I received a text from an unknown number. Heard you're sick. Take care of yourself in your senior year, Dean Lin. I stared at the message for a long time, eventually replying only with a thank
you.
Some relationships are like the leaves of the season. Once withered, there's no need to force them to stay. On the day I returned to school after recovering, Teacher Lee handed me an envelope. The city's Education Bureau is holding an inspirational Words for Youth essay contest. I think you should give
it a try.
The first prize comes with a 5,000 yuan reward and extra credit.
On
the bus ride home, I started brainstorming ideas for the new essay. Outside the window, the city lights were just beginning to glow and my reflection flickered in the glass. I just feel a
bit dazed. What was I doing at this time?
In my previous life, probably stuck in the quagmire of self-doubt, unable to free myself. A week before the college entrance exams, the school gave us a study break. I sat cross-legged on the floor surrounded by the study materials I had accumulated over the past 2 years. 12 densely packed notebooks, 6 volumes of mistake collections, 3 mind mapping books for the humanities, and a stack of practice tests with dog-eared edges from constant flipping.
At the
very top is that dark blue covered Rebirth Plan notebook, now almost completely filled. I flip open the first page, where slightly childish handwriting reads, Advantages. 1. Remember the college entrance exam essay topic? The corners of my mouth curl up involuntarily. Back then I thought the greatest advantage of Rebirth was that pitiful bit of foresight. Little did I know the real change came from these 2 years of down-to-earth effort.
my phone
Vibrated. It was a message from Lin.
Xiaoyu.
Help. I haven't finished memorizing the political essay questions
Yet.
What do you think will be on the exam this year? I replied with a smile. Focus on cultural innovation and ecological civilization. This was a reasonable guess based on my past life memories and this year's current affairs, but I didn't dare to be too
certain.
What if the butterfly effect changed something?
Putting down my
phone, I continued organizing my essay materials, the dozens of articles, and numerous practice essays I'd published over the past 2 years were all sorted into categories: social observations, personal growth, cultural reflections. For each category, I had prepared several polished paragraphs that could be flexibly combined. Mom knocked on the door and came in carrying a plate of cut
fruit.
Don't overwork yourself and take care of your eyes. Millimeter, I'll finish tidying up soon. I took the fruit and pointed at the materials on the
floor.
Mom, look. These are all the things I've written over the past 2
years.
Mom crouched down gently, touching those notebooks, and suddenly, her eyes turned red. My daughter has really grown up. I knew what she was thinking. At this time in my previous life, I was still agonizing over the last few major questions in the science section, wearing a gloomy face every day, completely unable to see any hope. Mom, no matter how I perform in the exams, I've done my best. I held her hand. You'll definitely do well.
Mom
wiped the corner of her eye. By the way, here's a letter that arrived today. The envelope bore the logo of Youth Literature. Upon opening it, I found a contract invitation.
They wanted me to
write a regular column for them, 1 essay per month. The night before the college entrance exam, I went to bed at 10 o'clock. Contrary to my expectations of tossing and turning, I fell asleep almost as soon as my head touched the
pillow.
When I woke up in the morning, a light rain was falling outside the window. I did some simple stretches, ate the perfect score breakfast my mom had prepared, a fried dough stick and 2 eggs, and then carefully checked my exam admission ticket and stationery. Nervous. On the way to the exam site, my dad unusually initiated a conversation a little, but more than anything, I'm looking forward to it. I gazed at the rain outside the car window. It's just, after preparing for so long, the performance is finally about to begin. First subject, Chinese. The moment the test papers were handed out, I immediately flipped to the last page to check the essay topic on upholding tradition and embracing innovation. Although it wasn't the same topic from my past life's memory, this subject happened to be one I frequently explored in my column articles. With confidence, I picked up my pen and wrote the title, Upholding the Integrity of Tradition, Creating the Novelty of the Era. The rain had stopped by the time I walked out of the exam hall, and sunlight broke through the clouds, casting dappled shadows on the ground. Lin Xiaoyu was waiting for me at the meeting point, looking utterly dejected. I completely went off topic in the essay. I wrote about technological innovation.
Don't
dwell on it. Focus on the next subject, I said, patting her shoulder. Math was my weak spot, but I took it step by step, making sure to secure points for every question I could answer. For the last two major problems, I did my best to write down some steps. I performed steadily in the liberal arts and English sections, especially in the English essay, where I used several carefully prepared advanced sentence structures that I hoped would leave an impression on the graders. When the bell rang for the final exam, some students in the classroom cheered while others cried. Calmly, I packed up my stationery and left the exam hall. The school gate was crowded with waiting parents, and as soon as my mom saw me, she rushed over and hugged me tightly. How about it? I performed normally. I replied briefly, not wanting to dwell on the details. The college entrance exam was just a starting point, not the end. The days waiting for the results were more relaxed than I had imagined. I began tidying my room, packing up unnecessary study guides to donate to younger students. By chance, I came across my diary from freshman year. Those entries, filled with anxiety over Dean Lin's every word, now seemed like a lifetime ago. At dawn on June 25th, the score inquiry system opened. The whole family gathered around the computer, and when I entered my exam number and clicked search, my hands were actually trembling. The page refreshed. Every subject score was displayed as asterisks. I'm a top-scoring student whose score is hidden. Peking University is in the bag. Dad excitedly slammed the table, waking up my younger brother. Mom covered her mouth and cried. I stared at the screen momentarily, speechless. This score far exceeded my previous life's results, even surpassing my own estimates. The next day, when returning to school to fill out college applications, I became the center of attention. Teacher Lee, beaming with pride, introduced me to every faculty member. This is Tessu from our class, the only top-scoring liberal arts student whose score is hidden. Teacher Zhang hugged me excitedly. I knew you could do it. Even the usually stern Teacher Lu nodded at me and said, it's not easy to score so high in liberal arts. Without hesitation, I filled in Chinese department of Peking University in the first choice column. When submitting the application form, Teacher Lee said with satisfaction, you are one of the most successful students I've ever taught on campus. I ran into Dean Lin. He was standing alone in front of the honor roll, staring at the list of high scores posted there. My name was prominently displayed, while his was beyond the top 50. Congratulations, he said hoarsely. It seems the humanities really suit you. How did you do? I asked. 602, he smiled bitterly. Only good enough for a provincial university. My mom is furious. Thinks I've embarrassed her. I didn't know what to say. In my past life at this time, he was proudly preparing to attend a prestigious university in Shanghai while I could only go to a local second-tier college. Tessa, Dean Lin hesitated. I want to apologize for what I said before. I was too arrogant back then, always thinking science majors were superior. It's all in the past, I said calmly. I wish you a happy college life. At the graduation ceremony, I went on stage as the representative of outstanding graduates to receive the award. The audience erupted in thunderous applause. I saw Teacher Lee and Teacher Zhang frantically taking photos, Lin Xiaoyu excitedly waving her arms, and even Dean Lin clapping during his speech. The principal said, like classmate Tessu, recognizing one's own talents and passions and giving them your all. That is the true essence of success. After the ceremony, classmates signed each other's uniforms as
keepsakes. Dean Lin walked over, signed
my uniform sleeve, and handed me a pen, saying, "Could you sign mine too?"
On
the back of his uniform, I wrote, "May you find your own path, Tessu." In mid-July, the admission letter from Jing University arrived as expected inside the gilded envelope. Besides the admission notice, there was also a handwritten letter from the Dean of the College of Liberal Arts. "Your portfolio demonstrates extraordinary literary potential. We look forward to seeing you shine at Jing University." I framed the admission letter along with my published articles and hung them on the bedroom
wall.
Below them, I placed that rebirth plan notebook open to the last page, where I had written my new plan the night before. University goals: 1. Major in Chinese, minor in English. 2. Join the literature club and continue writing. 3. Strive for an exchange student opportunity. 4. Publish a personal collection of works. In early August, I attended my high school reunion. This time, all eyes were on me, with everyone eagerly asking for the secret to getting into Kyoto University. Dean Lin didn't show up. I heard he had gone to Provincial University early for a summer camp. At the gathering, a few boys who had mocked me for switching to liberal arts sheepishly toasted me, saying, "You had the foresight after
all.
I should have chosen liberal arts."
2.
I just smiled and didn't tell them that what truly matters isn't the choice between arts and sciences, but whether you stay true to yourself. When leaving, the squad leader drunkenly shouted, "When Tissot becomes famous, we can all brag about being her classmates." The summer night breeze gently brushed against my face as I looked up at the star-filled sky.
Memories from my past.
Life flashed by like a revolving lantern. Choices made to please others. Opportunities abandoned due to low self-esteem, a muddled career. All those regrets were made up for in this life. Returning home, I wrote the final passage in my diary. "Dear Tessu, when you read these words again, I hope you have become a better version of yourself. Don't forget the courage of your 17-year-old self and don't let down the miracle of rebirth. At 27, the road ahead is still long, but this time, you won't lose your way again from your past self." Closing the diary, I placed it in the deepest part of the drawer. Tomorrow, I will board the northbound train and embark on a brand new journey. This time it's not to follow anyone but to seek my true self. Outside the window, summer cicadas chirp as if bidding me farewell, while in the distance, the bell of Peking University is faintly audible, awaiting the arrival of a reborn soul.